In the beginning, a garden, but not just any garden. Most of us picture Eden as a paradise of trees and rivers, but what if Eden was never meant to be just a beautiful garden? What if it was a cosmic temple, the place where heaven and earth touched, where humanity stood as the living bridge between two realms? When the first man was formed from the dust, the ancient Hebrew text uses words that reveal far more than simple farming. Avad and shamar. These words don't merely mean work and keep. They carry the weight of priestly language, terms later used to describe Levites serving in the Holy of Holies. Adam wasn't created just to cultivate the soil. He was ordained to mediate. His role was not simply survival. It was stewardship of the most sacred space in existence. Eden wasn't just the first home. It was the first temple. But here's where the story takes a turn. The Hebrew name Adam doesn't only mean the man. It also means humanity, singular and collective, a name and a category. This opens a question that shakes the foundations of everything we think we know about the beginning. Was Adam the first biological human? Or was he chosen from among many? What if his story isn't about the first man to exist, but the first man to be called? The first to bear the divine commission to stand between God and creation. The first priest of a cosmic temple that spanned both realms. The narrative whispers of a larger reality, that Eden was never meant to be a private garden for a single couple, but the launch point of a cosmic plan. A sanctuary meant to expand until the entire earth became a dwelling place of God. But this sacred assignment carried weight. Adam wasn't just tending a garden, he was guarding a throne room. He wasn't simply planting seeds, he was holding the gateway between heaven and earth. And that means when Adam fell, the whole structure trembled. The loss of Eden wasn't the loss of a garden, it was the closure of the cosmic temple. The exile wasn't just about leaving paradise, it was humanity being cut off from the meeting place of heaven and earth. And yet, embedded within this tragedy, the story hides a promise, a shadow of someone yet to come. Someone who would not just reopen the gate, but become the gate. Someone who would succeed where Adam failed. Someone whose obedience would restore the temple, the garden, and the destiny humanity was created to carry. The forbidden history begins here, not with a simple tale of beginnings, but with the opening act of a cosmic drama. Eden wasn't just paradise, it was a sanctuary, and Adam was its first priest. When the Hebrew text describes Adam's assignment, the words avad and shamar don't sound like agricultural instructions. They sound like temple duties. Centuries later, when Moses wrote about Levites serving in the Holy of Holies, he used the exact same words. Adam's hands were not just made for soil, they were made for sacred service. His life was designed to be a bridge between God's presence and all creation. Eden wasn't merely a garden, it was the first Holy of Holies. But with that sacred duty came danger. The tree of life wasn't just a source of immortality, it was the symbol of God's own eternal presence. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil wasn't just about morality, it represented divine wisdom reserved for those who walked in perfect relationship with the Creator. Adam stood in the center of this cosmic tension. His obedience would expand Eden until all creation became God's dwelling. His failure would collapse the bridge between heaven and earth. And then, the serpent spoke. This was no ordinary animal. The Hebrew word nachash hints at something more, a spiritual being, a shining one, perhaps even a member of the divine council who rebelled. His words were subtle, but his aim was devastating. Has God really said? In that moment, Adam faced more than a test of loyalty. He faced a cosmic trial. His choice would either keep the temple open or seal its gates. And when he chose rebellion over relationship, the result was not just personal shame. It was a cosmic collapse. The flaming sword at Eden's gate wasn't God's anger. It was divine protection. The way to the tree of life was sealed, not because God wanted to abandon humanity, but because corrupted priests could not dwell in the Holy of Holies without destroying themselves and everything else. But even in the exile, the text hides a whisper of redemption. The first prophecy, spoken not to Adam, but to the serpent, promised a coming one, a seed, a human who would crush the deceiver's head and reopen the way to the tree of life. This wasn't just a promise of a savior, it was a prophecy of a restored priesthood, a new Adam who would carry the original calling without failure. From that moment, the story shifts. The narrative of Scripture becomes a search for this one. Every covenant, every altar, every temple is a shadow of the cosmic temple that was lost. Every priest is a faint echo of the first priest who failed, and the last priest who would succeed. But here's where the forbidden history starts to reveal its depth. If Adam's role was priestly, and Eden was a cosmic temple, then the fall wasn't just the origin of sin. It was the fracture of the universe itself. The physical and spiritual realms were torn apart. Heaven and earth were no longer seamlessly connected. Humanity's place as mediator was shattered. And yet, the story doesn't end there. Because from the ruins of Eden, the ancient Hebrew text begins to weave a promise so intricate, so deliberate, that it spans thousands of years. Every law, every ritual, every priestly garment, every sacred word, all of it was preparing for the return of the priest, the one who would not just enter the temple, but become the temple. The forbidden history of Adam isn't just about humanity's fall. It's about humanity's original purpose. It's about the weight of what was lost and the magnitude of what's coming to restore it. Where the first Adam closed the way to the tree of life, another would come to reopen it. From the moment Eden's gates closed, the Hebrew text begins to hum with anticipation. It speaks in symbols, shadows, and whispers. The prophets paint glimpses of a figure, human yet more than human, who would succeed where Adam failed. This figure wouldn't erase Adam's story. He would complete it. Not a replacement for humanity, but humanity's ultimate fulfillment. The priest Adam was meant to be. The bridge Adam was designed to form. Centuries later, when Jesus steps into history, the echoes are deafening. His genealogy is traced not just to Abraham, but all the way back to Adam. His story opens with water, like a new creation rising from chaos. And before his ministry begins, he's driven into the wilderness, not a lush garden, but a barren desert. And there he faces the test. 3 temptations, 3 offers to seize power apart from relationship, 3 echoes of Eden. But where Adam grasped, Jesus surrendered. Where the first priest failed, the last priest stood. His obedience wasn't just personal righteousness, it was cosmic repair. Every "it is written" wasn't just a quote, it was the sound of Eden's gates creaking open. But the story goes deeper. Jesus doesn't just resist the serpent, he reclaims the priestly role Adam abandoned. His miracles aren't random acts of kindness, they're previews of a restored creation. Blind eyes opening are glimpses of Eden's light. Storms stilled are echoes of the harmony humanity was meant to have with creation. Bread multiplied, water turned to wine. They're not just wonders, they're signs. Signs that the cosmic temple is being rebuilt, stone by living stone. And then comes the ultimate act of priesthood. On a hill outside Jerusalem, the last Adam becomes both priest and sacrifice. His blood doesn't just forgive sins, it cleanses the temple itself. When the veil in the Holy of Holies tears, it's not just a religious moment, it's cosmic. The barrier that Adam's rebellion erected shreds from top to bottom. Heaven and earth touch again. The way to the tree of life stands open. But here's the twist the forbidden history reveals. This restoration wasn't for a chosen bloodline alone. Genesis 1 had already declared it. All humanity bears the divine image. All were made for the cosmic temple. What Christ restored, he restored for every image bearer, every tribe, every tongue, every nation. This changes everything. Salvation isn't escape from earth, it's the healing of earth. It's not about abandoning creation but renewing it. The New Testament doesn't describe a flight to heaven. It describes heaven descending, the cosmic temple expanding until it covers all creation. The last Adam doesn't just bring us back to Eden. He takes Eden to its ultimate destiny, the New Jerusalem, where the tree of life stands at the center, its leaves for the healing of the nations. This isn't myth. This isn't metaphor. This is the culmination of the narrative that began in Genesis. The priestly calling, the sacred duty, the divine image, it all converges here. And the invitation is universal, not because of your ancestry, not because of your bloodline, but because you are an image bearer of the Creator. The last Adam didn't come to start a new humanity. He came to restore the humanity God intended from the beginning. The cosmic temple is open. The tree of life is available. The question is, will you enter? Hidden in the ancient texts are references to beings that don't fit our neat categories of human and divine. Entities that walked between worlds. The Hebrew Bible drops it like a coded message. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. Genesis 6:2. For centuries, this verse has been smoothed over, explained away. But what if it isn't metaphor? What if it's a record of an event so world-altering that entire civilizations preserved fragments of the memory? The text calls them Ben Elohim, sons of God. In every other context, this phrase describes divine beings, members of God's heavenly council. And here, they cross over. They step into the physical realm, and humanity is never the same. The children they leave behind are called Nephilim, the fallen ones, the mighty men of old. Warriors whose very existence blurred the line between heaven and earth. But the story doesn't stop at Israel's borders. Across the globe, independent cultures echo the same memory. In Sumerian texts, they are the Anunnaki, those who came down from heaven to earth. In Greek myth, the Titanomachy tells of gods mingling with mortals. In Hindu tradition, avatars descend in physical form to interact with humanity. Separate civilizations, separate languages. The same story. It's not coincidence, it's history. But here's where the tone darkens. The arrival of these beings wasn't purely benevolent. The biblical narrative links their intrusion to an explosion of violence and corruption. The earth became filled with bloodshed. Humanity's thoughts were only evil continually. It wasn't ordinary sin. It was systemic infection. A cosmic breach that warped creation itself. God's response wasn't just moral judgment. It was preservation. The flood wasn't simply about saving good people from bad people. It was a reset, a firewall to stop the corruption from consuming the entire human project. When Genesis says Noah was perfect in his generations, the language suggests something deeper than moral character. It hints at untainted lineage, a bloodline untouched by the genetic chaos introduced by these divine intruders. And yet, the memory survived. So did the knowledge. Look at the archaeological record. Out of nowhere, civilizations appear with staggering sophistication. Astronomical alignments that map the stars with near-perfect accuracy. Megalithic structures whose engineering still defies explanation. Mathematical relationships encoded into stone centuries before their discovery. This isn't random progress. This is inherited knowledge. The Great Pyramid of Giza, aligned to true north with microscopic precision, encodes pi and the golden ratio in its architecture. At Göbekli Tepe, stone circles map celestial movements 6,000 years before Stonehenge. At Baalbek, stones weighing 1,000 tons are moved with methods we still can't replicate. At Pumapunku, blocks are cut with techniques that suggest high-level metallurgy and tools unknown to primitive cultures. These are not anomalies. They are fingerprints, traces of a golden age that wasn't entirely human. But the knowledge came with a cost. Power without wisdom, capability without restraint, technology without moral grounding. The same pattern repeats in every era of human history. Every leap forward brings both blessing and curse. The same forbidden knowledge that builds can also corrupt. That tension is woven into our DNA. This is why the Eden story matters. It's not a primitive myth. It's a warning encoded into the origin story of humanity. that divine knowledge outside divine relationship doesn't elevate, it destroys. And this is why the last Adam's obedience is so crucial. He doesn't just redeem humanity morally, he redeems knowledge itself. He shows us what it looks like when power and love are perfectly united, when divine wisdom governs divine capability. But the question lingers: if these beings walked the earth once, have they truly gone? Or do their whispers still echo in our technological leaps, in our restless pursuit of power, in the shadowed corners of human ambition?
The forbidden history of humanity's beginning. It never really ended. It simply changed form. Every generation thinks it's living in a new age, but the truth is haunting. We are still living in the aftermath of Eden, still wrestling with the same temptation, still facing the same question whispered in that garden: has God really said? The forbidden knowledge never disappeared. It went underground. It traveled through bloodlines, through memories, through ruins half buried in sand and stone. And it emerges every time humanity reaches for power faster than we reach for wisdom. Look at history. The moment humanity discovered fire, we learned to cook and to burn. The moment we split the atom, we promised unlimited energy and built weapons that could erase nations. The moment we unlocked the genome, we glimpsed healing beyond imagination and opened the door to rewriting what it means to be human. Every leap forward is the same ancient choice in a new disguise. Will we use this knowledge in submission to divine wisdom or in defiance of it? This isn't just philosophy, it's prophecy in motion. The archaeological record keeps whispering reminders. Lost civilizations that rose to staggering heights and then collapsed into ruin. Stone inscriptions of technologies that shouldn't exist in their time. Ruins of cultures that seem to remember a world before the flood and paid the price for repeating its corruption. The genetic evidence is just as telling. Scientists are uncovering layers of complexity in the human story, echoes of multiple populations, diverse lineages, and something else. A unity that doesn't come from biology, but from something deeper. We are all marked by the same spiritual DNA. We are all image bearers, and that means we are all caught between the same two destinies. The destiny of the first Adam, autonomy, corruption, death. The destiny of the last Adam, submission, restoration, life. Every decision moves us toward one or the other. And right now, in this very age, the pattern is accelerating. Artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, technologies that blur the line between man and machine, human and divine. We are standing on the edge of something that feels eerily familiar, as if we've been here before. Because we have. The same serpent still whispers, the same tree still offers its fruit, the same choice still hangs over us like a cosmic test. But there's hope, because the same grace that walked into Eden after Adam's fall still walks into our world today. The same love that refused to abandon humanity then refuses to abandon us now. The same restoration that began at the cross is still unfolding, even as the corruption continues to fight. The forbidden history isn't just about where we came from. It's about where we're going. It's about the story that's still being written, with every act of love, every word of truth, every moment of obedience that aligns us with the last Adam's victory instead of the first Adam's fall. And one day, when the story reaches its climax, the pattern will break forever. The tree of life will stand in the center of a city where heaven and earth are one. The cosmic temple will cover all creation, and the forbidden knowledge will no longer be dangerous because it will finally be redeemed. The story that began in a garden ends in a city, but the ending is not really the end. It is the beginning humanity was always meant to reach. Where Adam's disobedience closed the way to the tree of life, another man's obedience would reopen it. Where the first representative of humanity fell, the ultimate representative would stand. For centuries, the Hebrew texts whispered about him. Prophets built anticipation like shadows cast before dawn. Not as a replacement for Adam, but as Adam's fulfillment. Not as a different kind of human being, but as the human being Adam was always meant to be. And when he finally appeared, when Jesus stepped onto the stage of history, the connections were unmistakable. His genealogy traced back to Adam himself. His temptation in the wilderness mirrored Adam's test in the garden. His obedience unto death reversed Adam's disobedience unto death. But more than that, his role as the mediator between God and humanity restored the priestly calling Adam had abandoned. Through his perfect life, sacrificial death, and victorious resurrection, he reopened the way into the cosmic temple. He restored access to the tree of life. He made it possible for humanity to once again walk with God in the cool of the day. This was never about creating something entirely new. It was about restoring something ancient, about healing what was broken, about removing the veil that had been drawn between heaven and earth. The New Testament doesn't describe salvation as escape from the world, but as the transformation of the world. Not leaving earth for heaven, but bringing heaven to earth. Not destroying creation, but renewing it. And then comes the vision. In the final pages of Revelation, the story comes full circle. A new heaven and a new earth. A city descending from God, not humanity reaching upward, but heaven coming down to embrace earth. In the middle of this city flows the river of life, and there, growing on both sides, is the tree of life, its leaves for the healing of the nations. There is no temple in this city, because the entire city has become the temple. The cosmic temple Adam was meant to steward now encompasses all creation. The garden was never meant to remain a garden. It was always meant to expand into this, the eternal communion of heaven and earth, divine and human, creation and creator. And here's the most stunning truth. This restoration isn't limited to Adam's bloodline. It extends to all who bear the divine image. Every human heart carries the spark of Eden. Every soul feels the echo of the garden. Every person, regardless of ancestry, nation, or past, is invited into this cosmic reality. The way of access has been reopened. The tree of life stands ready. The cosmic temple awaits. The invitation is for you. The forbidden history of humanity's beginning was never just about the past. It was always about the future, your future. The destiny that was planned before the foundations of the world. The story that was written into your very being before you ever took your first breath. And the question that reverberates through eternity now falls to you. Will you enter the story? Will you take your place in the cosmic temple? Will you choose the restoration of the last Adam over the corruption of the first?
The garden was never just a beginning. It was a prophecy of what was to come, a shadow of the destiny that still calls to us across time. We live between two worlds, between Eden and the New Jerusalem, between the garden that was lost and the city that is coming, between the first Adam's failure and the last Adam's triumph. And every heartbeat, every choice, every breath draws the story closer to its conclusion. The forbidden history we've uncovered is not just ancient memory, it is the pulse of reality itself. You carry it in your DNA. You feel it in your soul. That longing for something beyond this world, that ache for a home you can't quite remember, that's Eden calling you back. You were never meant to live in exile forever. This is not mythology. This is the deepest truth of existence. You are not a mistake. You are not random. You are not forgotten. You are an image bearer of the divine, invited into a relationship so profound it redefines what it means to be human. The serpent's whisper still echoes through time. As God really said, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil still stands, its fruit still offering autonomy, power, and corruption. But so does the tree of life. Its roots are deeper, its fruit sweeter, its invitation eternal. And so the question is the same as it was in the beginning, the same as it is now, the same as it will be until the very last moment of time. Which tree will you choose? The story is not finished. The last chapter has not been written. The cosmic temple is being rebuilt. The river of life is already flowing.
The leaves of the tree are already healing nations, but there is still one thing missing: you. The choice is no longer Adam's, it's yours, and eternity waits for your answer.